President Trump delivered his first State of the Union address. He covered everything from immigration to the economy and mentioned a few executive orders that he signed today. So let's talk about it now. Joining me are political contributors Dr. Andre Gillespie and Mike Hassinger. Welcome to you both. Let's start big picture. Give me one word to describe what you heard tonight.
It was scripted.
Scripted?
Mm-hmm.
Powerful.
Powerful. Okay. Let's listen to a little bit of it. I want to talk first about tax cuts. He mentioned it. Let's take a listen to the president.
We eliminated an especially cruel tax that fell mostly on Americans making less than $50,000 a year, forcing them to pay tremendous penalties simply because they couldn't afford government-ordered health plans. We repealed the core of the disastrous Obamacare. The individual mandate is now gone.
All right, Doctor, what do you think? First, mentioning healthcare and tax cuts, kind of putting it all together there.
Well, I'm not surprised. And so what we're seeing is President Trump is evolving. And so there are promises that he's made that he has to modify because the realities of governing in Washington require a certain amount of compromise. So he promised to repeal and replace Obamacare. Hasn't been able to replace it, but he has been able to repeal the individual mandate. And the long-term goal for him is to eventually kill Obamacare at the vine. But by removing the mandate, then he can say that he's kept at least part of that promise.
Another part I want to play, he mentioned the national anthem tonight. Take a listen.
As one team, one people, and one American family can do anything. We all share the same home, the same heart, the same destiny, and the same great American flag.
How about that, Mike? Is that a unifying message?
Oh, absolutely. This is a very patriotic speech. This was a very America First speech. This was a very moving speech that, quite frankly, I wasn't expecting. I'm a Republican, but I was not a Trump supporter in the last election. But I think he has exceeded expectations largely for the last year, or, as I'll defer to Audra, been able to get away with exceeding expectations.
See, I would argue that that wasn't actually a unifying moment because he brings up something that's highly controversial and then doesn't actually acknowledge the issues that were kind of underlying it. So what part of the protest, represents legitimate concerns that NFL players have? Lots of people will note that he didn't mention Charlottesville at all in the middle of this speech. And so he talks about unity, but then doesn't talk about sort of the repentance that needs to be a part of reconciliation. And so for that, I think a lot of those comments and even some of the proposals that look like they were bones for Democrats are going to fall on deaf ears, and it's still going to be really hard to forge a compromise.
Right. Something else he mentioned tonight was MS-13 and kind of tied it together with the immigration issue. Let's take a listen.
6 members of the savage MS-13 gang have been charged with Kayla and Nisa's murders. Many of these gang members took advantage of glaring loopholes in our laws to enter the country as illegal, unaccompanied alien minors and wound up in Kayla and Nisa's high school.
All right, so Mike, you brought in the parents of these 2 girls who were killed by MS-13. How do you think that played tonight, bringing in those parents and other folks to tell their stories?
I think it was a brilliant, cold but brilliant rhetorical move because it is very hard for Democrats to hold the line on immigration reforms the way they want them done when you're looking at victims of actual crime. That is not to say that immigrants are all criminals. That is to say one more reason why we need immigration reform.
All right, as we wrap all this up, do you think this moves people closer together or further apart?
No, I think people are exactly where they were before this speech. I think Republicans got red meat in this speech, and so they'll love it. And Democrats heard divisiveness, and so I think people are going to be back in their corners tomorrow.
Do you agree? Do you think maybe there's a chance? Because he tried to do that with the immigration issue, at least.
It's all up to the Democrats. They're in sort of a pickle about whether or not they want to actually get a reform, let the Dreamers come into the country some way, or give Donald Trump a win.
All right, Michael, Dr. Andre Gillespie, thank you both so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks.